Hello everyone, welcome to the APAC Community Connection. I am very pleased to welcome you all here, and today we are here at the APAC Developer Relations team, and we're going to talk to you about why digital transformation in these current times matter so much and why developers are at the crux of it. So talking to us today, we have Annie Matthew, the director of our team. We have Sudhir, who manages the developer relations team from New Zealand, and Ian Choi, who manages the developer relations team from Korea, and Shubhangi, who manages the overall APAC marketing side. So you might see some very interesting pictures here on screen. So I will ask all of our speakers here to come and share with us why these pictures are interesting and how these pictures define what they started doing during the lockdown in these unprecedented COVID times. Annie, hello.
Hey, Shubhangi, thanks. Before COVID, it used to be very defined work, home, etc. And soon after COVID started, I felt like I had no boundaries. I mean, I was just working all the time and kind of getting very frustrated about it. And at that time, I started walking, joining my husband in his walks, which I never used to do before, and just discovered that there's such a beautiful world out there. So these are pictures you see, which I take of the same sky every evening because we cannot travel far. We're doing the same route, but the skies are different each time and saying a different story. So started picture taking, walks in picture taking, and I'm just loving it. I'm doing till date.
That's great. Sudhir, tell us your story.
Hey Shubhagi, thank you so much and excited to be here. My name is Sudhir. I work as an Azure Dev MM with Microsoft New Zealand. And during the COVID, I actually went back to my passion of yoga. And that's what you see on the photo that I'm, doing some poses. And it is so excited, makes my body so flexible. And there's a couple of benefits that I see from this yoga. One is obviously my child just started following me, and they're also started doing yoga. And the second thing is, doing yoga is keeping me fit and keep me refreshed all day. So yeah, good to be back and doing yoga. Over to you.
Perfect. That's great to hear. We're keeping healthy using COVID time so wisely. Ian, tell us, what do we have here?
Yeah, hi, this is Ian, and thank you, Shubhangi, Annie, and Sudhir. Yeah, we all are working together, although we couldn't meet all together. But yeah, before COVID-19, then my hobby was to take interesting photos with many developer community members. But during COVID-19, then I couldn't go outside. So now that I'm preparing lots of home video production system, how can I show up myself best as much as possible? So I'm doing several experiments how I better connect from digital camera to my laptop via HDMI or and so on. I'm still finding lots of approaches.
That's great, Ian. I think we all need to take tips from you. So what you see here on my side is just a picture of a lot of food which I started preparing at home. So nothing very exciting, but if you all can come over, I would love to host a dinner for everyone.
We are there. We are coming, Shubhangi.
Yeah. So
Wow.
coming to the topic of digital transformation and why it matters today, and why are we talking about digital transformation to the developer audience, and why it matters is because what has happened in the COVID is that the digital transformation has taken a next level speed, and it has accelerated in every customer of ours, in every organization that we see. So what is that it matters is that we need to rethink how businesses are done now, and they need to meet the new customer demands. At the crux of it, of all the digital transformation, we have people, technology, process, and infinite data. But who can really make the digital transformation happen is the developers, is you people, the community we are working with, the community who is going to make that digital transformation happen. So I would like to call upon Ian to talk about what digital transformation really means in today's day and age.
Thank you, Shivangi. So yeah, one of our key differentiators on digital company would be culture thing, because then, yeah, let's think about transformation and this culture shift. So as Peter Drucker famously said, and then culture eats strategy for breakfast. So yeah, which means that let's think about both culture shift and strategy. One, our great example of culture would be Microsoft itself, because then many of you have seen the Microsoft reinvent itself with a renewed culture commitment to inclusive things and also growth mindset. It was not just one product or one group leader that made the difference. It was the culture that Satya Nadella brought to the leadership as described in this book, Hit Refresh. And Shumangi, would you go to the next slide? So, and also then for culture, and then learning is important. What I mean is the continuous learning. So world is changing with transformation, and how we can adapt with regarding transformed world, and also then how we observe great culture, and also how we think about inclusive manner. So in my opinion, learning is great opportunity. And when you go to Microsoft Learn, there are plenty of technical resources you can learn. And also then during Ignite, and then we are Ignite, there is Ignite Cloud Skill Challenge. You can join in any one of total 7 different cloud skill challenges regarding great technology, diverse technologies during Microsoft Ignite. And even then you can join in APAC Social Learning Challenge. Yeah. And I would like to hand over to back. Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. Let me take you to a place not far from here. I'm sitting in Malaysia in Kuala Lumpur, Philippines, March 7, 2020. Philippines declared code red, and they even had shoot at sight orders if someone was not following the movement control order and things like that. We used to work very closely, or we do work very closely with DEF CON, which is a community of over 700 developers in Philippines, and Winston Bamarillo is the founder of that. So I remember Winston talking about this and saying that this is so frustrating. I'm sure there are technology solutions to this and we should do something about it. And DCTX actually put out an open call for developers saying, come join us to solve this problem. 1,093 volunteers joined, and they made 46 teams. They were working over Slack, and then over 90 days in collaboration with the community, the government, and Microsoft, we joined supporting with tools and Azure credits and whatever tech support they needed. And by April 3rd, they had the first critical app for Philippines out there, Rapid Pass. That's a picture that you're seeing. This was for the frontline workers to cut down the time they took to get out and show their pass and all of that. This became a contactless process. Amazing what this community did. They went on to publish another 2 critical apps for Philippines. Just look at the power of community there. It was not just about coding. The community lead really had to go about collaboration, make sure that he created synergy, reaching out to Microsoft, reaching out to the government who will actually use this. Otherwise, you would develop an app and nobody uses it, right? So there are tons of apps that have come out during the pandemic season, but how many of them is a nation using? This is one of those examples where he made all the connects, and the DCTX community really got this together in about 90 days and came out with 4 apps. Every time I think about this, I get goosebumps. And I've seen this across different countries in APAC, but this one really stands out for me. This just brings to mind that in the current scenario where Shubhangi spoke earlier about digital transformation of a nation and of organization or a community, community is core and central to that. Ian spoke about the culture and of course this collaboration culture inside that, and trying to achieve stuff as more than just one or more than a silo, get together and solve problems. Over to you, Sudhir. Tell us a little bit more about the next aspect to actually help countries transform.
Sure. Thank you, Annie. And I'm going to talk about the tech intensity. And it is you guys who are making this possible. And I'm going to take an example of two of our customer, who basically did a rapid experimentation and how they actually solve the complex business problem by using our platform, and how the developers, the ID people, and the other persona in the organization leveraging those technologies and making it possible to solve the business problem and bringing the digital transformation. So the first example is with the ASOS. So what happens is, before the COVID situation, right? I mean, a shopper generally just goes for shopping in a shop, and then buy some products. They try those products, and and then they can take it away. Now, during this COVID situation, right, when the shoppers are not allowed to go outside, there are a lot of spikes started happening on the online shopping. But what has been measured is, there are a lot of returns which are happening because people might not find it good when they wear it at home, and they just go ahead and return it, right? So that's where the ASOS technical teams did experiment with the virtual reality platform and providing a platform for the consumer so that they can actually try those products before they actually buy. And that basically reduced not only the returns, but then also the satisfaction on the customer side. Now, whereas on the second example, we can see the Myntra, they have a different problem, because in the Myntra, every week is a new season. And that means there are a lot of data that comes for them to play around. And that's where they leverage the Azure technologies to scale horizontal and vertical to not only provide the advanced analytics to the business user and as well as to the users recommendations, but also they were able to provide the insights in a real time, which makes the user experience much better and reduce the cost for the company. Now, I would like to go for the next slide. Now, here I'm going to take a quick example of the Azure custom vision model, right? So today we have this custom vision model where you can build the image classification or the object detection model, right? Now, you can, once you deploy this model, it will be available for you as an API endpoint. And when you provide this for any developer, they can query, and in the return, they will get a huge JSON response back, right? And then they have to play around with it. Now, how quickly we can actually build a solution where we can have a kind of a software as a service platform available, right? So we can actually use the Azure plug and play modules which are available, and bring all these services together and quickly build a prototype without worrying about installing the technologies, the frameworks, the security patches, libraries, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the example that I'm going to talk about over here. So now when we have the Azure custom vision model, you can see I basically front-ended with the Azure function, which provides in a serverless environment. And what it does is it basically takes the image URL from the user and send it to the Azure custom vision, do the processing of that based on the probability threshold that has been provided by the user, store that information into the storage and in the SQL server so that we can provide that information back to the end user in a Power BI. And for the developer, they don't have to be continuously monitor or integrate or deploy the solution. They can actually leverage the Azure DevOps so that anytime they're going to create a pull request, it automatically gets deployed onto the production environment. Obviously, we're going to have some sort of policies and rules defined, right? Now, the other aspect of it is we can actually build an application, as I mentioned earlier, these are the plug and play module. But even the solution that you're building it can be a loosely coupled module, right? So in this example, we can have these functions to be talking to one custom vision model or the another custom vision model. That means I don't need to deploy these functions again and again, right? I can just go ahead and go to the configuration and do it. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to show a demo of this entire architecture which I think I spent half day to build this demo, and let's go ahead and have a look. So I'm going to share my screen, and I would request my moderator to please allow me to share my screen. All right, I'm assuming you're able to view my screen, and real quickly, I'm going to walk. So this is the Visual Studio Code that you can see on my screen. Visual Studio Code has the templates for the Azure function, so I don't need to think about how I'm going to start writing my code. So the template is already given, and what I can do now is I can actually go ahead and write my piece of code to make it work, right? So whatever I want to do, I can actually go ahead and put it over here, right? And the entire processing that you have seen in the architecture, it's happening right over here in this piece of code, okay? And once I'm done with that, I can easily go ahead and publish this module to my Azure. So imagine that you already create a Azure function services onto the Azure. Now, because we have tightly integrated with not only with our tooling, but the other tools as well, you can directly go ahead and publish from your programming environment. So here I can just say publish, and then this entire code will automatically get published onto the function, which I've already did. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example of by running a query against the endpoint. So this is my endpoint, and what I'm doing is I'm basically providing the code, which for the authentication, obviously, and then I'm sending some of the headers over here. So this is the image URL which I want to test against, and I'm providing the probability threshold. So what's going to happen is when I'm going to get a full of JSON response back, I only gonna build a bounding box around the object in the image where the probability is greater than, let's say in this case is 79. And this is the user who's sending me the request. So let's go ahead and send this request. Now what's gonna happen is it's basically gonna not only Azure send the call to the Azure function, and function will pick up this entire information, do the processing, and send all this information onto the SQL Server. It's also going to store this information in a blob storage as in a process image. So if I go to my blob storage over here, and if I refresh this page, now you will see that I have multiple images, and then I have the post processing. So when the processing is done, I will have my results back over here. Now what these files will contain, I can actually go ahead and show you. So this is the image that I've sent it, right? And then what I did is I basically sent this information to the custom vision, process the image, put the bounding box around the objects based on the threshold that has been provided by the user. And now you can see over here, not only the bounding box, it basically gives me the text back over here on that, right? Now, at the end of the day, I can provide this information. Now think about we provided this to the business user. So rather than they actually, looking for any app or anything like that, they can actually go to the Power BI. And this is an example of the Power BI. If I just got to refresh this, I should be able to see one more record over here. So now it's going to connect back to my SQL Server and gets the data, and it's going to refresh my reports over here. There you go. So you can see Ignite 2021. So if I select that, I'll get my pre-processing image, I'll get my post-processing image as well, and this is submitted by me. So the whole point over here is, when you have a business problem, you don't have to be worried about infrastructure or, thinking about what are the configurations that you need. You have the serverless environment, you have this plug and play services available, which you can leverage, build quickly, fail quickly, and move on. Over to you, Shivangi.
Thanks, Sudhir. That was so interesting. Love the demo. So what we have all spoken up till now is about how digital transformation and developers are interlinked very closely. And we have spoken about how digital transformation means that it's about a culture shift now. It's about developers upskilling constantly, and it's also about developers should become a part of the community so that they're able to take the experience of the wider community and bring it together for everyone, and take experiences of the wider community and again obviously constantly upskill themselves with increasing the tech intensity of the daily work. With this, we come to the midpoint and we would now like to take the question and answers. So feel free to go ahead in the chat box, post your questions, and we would be gladly happy to take them. While we are getting the questions, I would like to start with a few questions that we have already. So first one is for Annie. Annie, you tell me how you think DNI is related to digital transformation, and I know how passionate you are about diversity and inclusion. So tell me why it matters right now.
Right. On a fundamental level, if you have to serve a diverse world, then you need to have diverse capabilities. So at a very basic fundamental level, that's what I believe in, and that's what Microsoft talks about as well. Now, if you look at AI as one technology that is impacting and going to impact a lot of our lives, all our lives, in many significant ways, whether it's getting the next job, the next house, criminal justice, are we going to get the next vaccine? So triaging in healthcare for which patients gets which medicines first, and what budget for that, etc. All of these things are very core to our lives, and these decisions are going to be taken by algorithms. Now, imagine algorithms which have no clue about the needs of women versus men, or the needs of Asians versus Caucasian, and so on and so forth. Today, if you look at AI and the top players in AI and who are contributing most to AI, it is mostly men and in the Western world. So how much would the models know? How biased would these models be about the needs and preferences, and why there should be a different way of looking at it from a woman's perspective? One great example here is LinkedIn, where LinkedIn did an analysis of actually the placement of MBA graduates, and they found that, and typically when you're looking at LinkedIn jobs and you're automating that, they will look at what's title, what is the headline descriptions they have given of what they have done, etc., etc. And they found that men typically fill up all this and fill up well, and women often leave out core competencies and core projects they have done. So they did that analysis and found that difference. Now, if that difference is inherent between men and women, then shouldn't the model which is looking at hiring be thinking about that and making sure there's no bias? Because if you put a headline and description, you get pulled up, and if you don't, you don't. So it's like super important that women and diverse audiences are participating in the whole AI journey, whether it's at policy level, coding, or even as a literate user. So that's why I'm passionate about this, Shubhangi.
I share your passion, Annie, and I totally agree and support every single thing you said. Next, I would like to ask both Sudhir and Ian to tell me what are the few things that they loved at Ignite this year, and what are the most relevant from a developer perspective?
All right. I think we're going to talk about technical stuff because me and Ian more on the tech side. So, I mean, the topics from my side, from the book of news, which I posted the link over there, is Azure Percept, Synapse Pathway, Apache Cassandra, and Microsoft Mesh. Now, these are the things that I like most, and I'm going to talk a little more about it. But having said that, this is not the only news that has been come out in this Ignite. There are a lot of other services that we have announced, which you can find into the Microsoft Ignite 2021 book of news. Now, what I like about Azure Percept, per se, it basically provides a real-time insight at the edge through the hardware accelerator, which is built to integrate seamlessly with the Azure AI and the IoT services that we have on Azure. Now, what we're trying to say is, now you're going to have on a platform with the development kits, and as well as the services that you have in Azure, your IoT and the AI, which you can bring together within no time, and you can actually enable the solutions like object detection, shelf analytics, anomaly detections, keyboard spotting at the edge itself. So that makes the life easier for you to build. The Azure Synapse Pathway, I mean, I really love about this is, it basically creates for anyone who's basically coming from different platform to the Synapse, we are actually trying to make our life easier. So for example, if you have a data warehouse in a different platform and you want to move on to the Synapse, we are actually building on a pathway for you so that you can easily move from one platform to the Synapse. So that's really cool about it. So that means the heavy lifting is done by the Microsoft. You can just follow the path and you will land into the Synapse world easily. Now, the another update that I like about is the Azure provides the managed instance for the Apache Cassandra, which is now is going to be a semi-managed service offering from Microsoft. So the people who loves working on the Apache Cassandra, they can actually use the same skills, same knowledge when they move on to the Azure. Now, behind the scenes, we are making life easier, by leveraging the security, the performance aspect, the scalability aspects, so that you can actually focus more on the innovation side rather than thinking about the infrastructure and the security cost or the performance side, right? One of the last but not the least is Microsoft Mesh, which talks about mixed reality. So here we are actually trying to referring the blending the world of physical and the digital, right? Now with the mixed reality, user can interact with the 3D objects while maintaining the presence in the physical world, right? Now Microsoft Mesh, which we announced recently, enables the presence and share the experience from anywhere through the mixed reality, right? So it's basically bringing everyone together by breaking the barriers. For example, today, you and me talking, and we have this monitor in between, right? But with this mesh technologies, we can actually bring not only you and me, we can actually go and bring other people as well in the room. And it's going to be feel like same that, we are sitting and talking in the same room, right? So think about it, my family is staying in India. Now I can actually virtually be there with them to celebrate any family functions that they have over there, right? So how cool is gonna be, right? And we provide a lot of SDKs and the services which basically helps developers to build the platform easily, bring the innovation easily, and run on their trusted platform, which is Azure. Over to you, Ian.
You're on mute, Ian.
Yeah, Sudhir, you talked really a lot. So, but I just want to add that I watched Ignite keynote in a virtual space by installing ArtSpace VR software. Then I was in real virtual auditorium. Then I watched HoloLens, HoloLens and Pokemon and any other virtual show inside a virtual reality place. So it was really great. So then watch again, please Ignite. And also there are other great services like Arc-enabled services, communication services, Teams integration, as well as Power FX. And plus, for Windows Server users, Windows Server 2022 is coming.
Okay, coming to the next question. Sudhir, I have one last question. This is about why there are so many services on Azure. Why is it so?
Yeah, I mean, this is the question I hear from a lot of people very oftenly. Even if you're storing data, or maybe building a machine learning model, or maybe you're building a mobile applications or the web app, right? Why Microsoft have so many services to store one set of data? Look, as a developer, what you're trying to do is, rather than we actually ask you to learn new technologies or learn the technology that we are offering, we are actually bringing the technology that you are comfortable with you closer to you, right? So hence today, if you're building an application in a .NET, you will find the .NET environment on the Azure. If you're building on the Python, Node.js, Java, you will find all these platforms. Now, if you're storing the data, you'll find that we have the relational database Azure SQL, but then we also have the different flavor of the NoSQL database as well, right? So we have the Cosmos DB, we have a PostgreSQL. Now I talk about the Apache Cassandra. Also we have available. So it's all about we are providing the technologies which is which will basically help you to leverage your existing skills and bring it. Now the another aspect of it, because there are business has the different challenges, different problems to solve, and hence just to make sure that they they get the optimum cost, performance, and security. We have these different services available. So it is really utmost important for you to understand these services when you're moving on to the Azure and choose the right services for your solutions. Over to you, Shubhangi.
Perfect. It has been a great chat, guys. I would now like to share one last call out. I hope you all can see my screen, and on this we have a challenge, which is a social learning challenge we have ongoing. So all the learning you are doing, go and share it on this QR code, scan it, and then you stand to win a lot of Surface Go 2s. So just take the opportunity and sign up. Apart from this, I would also like to highlight, to get regular updates from our community, log into the developer source newsletter and sign up for that. The QR code is here. Thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is time. Thank you. Bye.